Alright, so let's go back into the gradebook and we're going to look at some of the options that are available to us here. Okay, so I'm going to ignore these upper two buttons for now. We'll talk about it a little later. So what do I have here? Well, we've already talked about the search bar. We kind of know how that works. And I've got these buttons here. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and look at individual assignments. So I'm going to look at Lab Report 1 here. So let me go ahead and let me look at Lab Report 1. Okay. So a couple of things you can do here. Let's say you don't like the order of your assignments, or you created an assignment at a later date and you really want to reorder these assignments. So let's say this example discussion here is actually supposed to come before Lab Report 2 and even Lab Report 1. Well, you can actually grab a column in the gradebook and move it wherever you want to. So you don't have to go into any additional menu to do that. It's just drag and drop. Makes it very, very convenient. Additionally, let's talk about the menu that appears now. What options do you have when you click on this menu? Well, you can go into assignment details, so you can actually view the details of the assignment. You can go into SpeedGrader and assign grades for each student as you go through. You can message students. This is really cool. You can actually click on this and you can choose students who haven't submitted, students who haven't been graded yet, scored less than a certain grade, or scored more than a certain grade. So you can actually message all of your students who scored less than, let's say, if they scored less than 3 out of 5 points, then I can send them a message. I can say, performance in the discussion. I would just like to remind you all that the discussion is part of your grade, and you want to make sure you stay on top of it. New discussion topics are posted every Monday. And of course, this isn't going to let me send because the test student got 5 out of 5 points on that. So, and actually I don't think I assigned it because it's just a test student, but you would in theory actually have this button to where it wasn't kind of translucent, and you would be able to then email those students and message them. So this is a really cool feature that allows you to have a wide reach within your class so that you can actively get on students who haven't been participating and make sure that they're still engaged in the class content. Okay? You can set a default grade if you want to. So you can basically say, this is going to be the default grade for all students. You can even choose to make that default grade overwrite already entered grades. So let's say for whatever reason there was one discussion topic I wrote where I realized, oh my gosh, that was so far off base. I don't know why I put it in here. It was confusing to the students. I have it included in their points, so I'm just going to give them 5 points, and I'm going to overwrite already entered grades, and I will set default grade. Okay, so this says 0 student scores updated, and that's because, again, I've got a test student. Okay. What other options do we have? Well, you can curve grades. Okay, so you can choose to curve grades. You can then also assign zeros to those. Grade curving cannot be undone. Pre-curved grade histories will be available, but the curving action is irreversible, so keep that in mind. And then you can also mute the assignment. Now, the other cool thing wasn't shown here with the discussion, but let's go to Lab Report 1 because there are a couple of other things that we need to look at too. You have the option for assignments where there are submissions to download all of the submissions. So if you didn't want to go into SpeedGrader and you instead wanted to just download every file that students had submitted, you can do that collectively from here as well. Okay. So those are some of the cool options. Again, we can resize as we saw in the previous video. We can also drag and drop and move things around in the gradebook as we see fit. We can search. Let's go over here to the cog and see what other options are available to us. You can view grading history. I know this was available in Blackboard as well. So when you click on this, it's going to show you all of the different changes that have occurred, okay, in your grades. Let's pop back over. What else do we have available to us? You can set the group weights from here. So if you've already done that, but you want to make changes to them, then you can do that as well. You can hide student names. So if you wanted to hide student names, you could. You can also, once you've hidden them, you can come back over here and show student names. Okay. You can arrange the columns automatically by due date. You can arrange the columns automatically by assignment group. So if you want all of your lab reports to be together, and then all of your quizzes to be together, and all of your discussions to be together, hey, you can do that. Okay. So, and you'll notice here are my quizzes, practical exams. This is giving me the total percentage points, and then this, of course, would give me the total grade. You can choose to treat ungraded as zeros, and that will set 0% to anything that has ungraded assignments. You can show anybody who has concluded enrollments. You can show anyone with inactive enrollments, and you can also choose to show or hide the notes column. So here are notes that have been added. I'm going to go ahead and hide that. Okay. So those are some of the options that we have available to us in the gradebook. Now what about these two buttons up here? Individual view and showing all sections. Well, showing all sections is something you might not see at all, and that's because this particular course, this Sandbox course of mine, included two of my Sandbox courses, which is why I have the option to choose to see either one section or all sections. Now let's talk about individual view. Okay, and here again we see our keyboard shortcuts. Let's talk about individual view. Okay, so individual view allows you to see individual students and move through their specific assignments and grades. So when you click on that, it's going to bring you here. And the first thing it's going to ask is, do you want to see this for a single section, or do you want to see it for all sections? How do you want to sort things? Do you want to sort them by group and position, alphabetically, or by due dates? So as we start moving through the information for a single student, this is going to choose how we move through that information. Then here you set parameters. Are you going to treat ungraded as zeros? Are you going to hide the student names? And then are you going to show notes and show concluded enrollment? So as we're looking at the students that come through individually, you can set these parameters if you'd like to. You can also, still from here, set group weights if you need to. Okay. All right, so then what you would do, if you wanted to see a student, you would just come here to select student and you'd go to that student. And then you can choose to view a particular assignment or exam. So if I wanted to view Lab Report 1 for test student, I would just click on that. It'll show this, and it will give me several different options. First, should I excuse this assignment for the selected student? Yes or no? If I click on that, it's going to excuse this assignment from that student. And I can also view the submission details. It will tell me a little bit about the comments. It will show me the file. And I can also choose to update the grade for this if I want to. Down here, you're going to get more information on the student. So it's going to talk to you a little bit more about how the student is performing in terms of lab reports, quizzes, practical exams, and imported assignments. It's going to then also give you another section that gives you assignment information. So it's going to show me this along with all of the submissions from the student, the points possible, the average score, the high score, and the low score. So I can kind of view how the student did compared to the, I guess, the rest of his or her submission. So if there were multiple submissions, I could also see that here. This also still allows me to message students, curve grades, and set a default grade. So a lot of the options you have in the regular gradebook are available here. So if I'm done looking at report 1 for the student, I can jump to the next assignment. This student did not submit this particular lab report, so I could choose to excuse this student from that assignment, and I could move on to lab report 3. Now let's say I decided the student did better on this lab report. Well, I could change it to a 95, and then I could move on to the next assignment. So this also will allow you to go student by student through their assignments, and at any point in time, if you have a list of students here, you also are given the option to move on to the next student. So if you want to do it just for a single student and go through all of his or her assignments, you can do that. If instead you want to go through a single assignment for all of your students, then what you would do is you would pick that assignment, like Lab Report 1, you'd start on whatever student you want to, and then you'd go to the next student after you've done what you need to here. Okay? So that essentially is the individual view in the gradebook. Personally, I think I would spend most of my time in the regular gradebook, but you might feel compelled to work in the individual view. Now, it is worth mentioning, once you click on individual view in that button, it changes the gradebook to this format. So if you want to go back to the regular format, you simply click right here on switch to default gradebook, and that will take you back to your global gradebook. That is something that's very important to mention, because if you click individual view here, from that point onward for this section, when you click on grades, you're going to always be brought to that individual view. Okay, so to get back to it, remember you just switch to default gradebook from your main grades page, and that will bring you here. So those are the options that you have available to you in the gradebook.